Before we deconstruct the brutal, mathematical, unforgiving reality of a global labor market and the catastrophic illusion of reduced schedules, I have exactly 3 critical questions for you to answer in the comments below. Number 1. Are you currently celebrating a corporate policy that mandates a 4-day work week, completely blind to the fact that you are voluntarily handling a 20% competitive advantages to your hungriest rivals? Number 2. Do you truly believe that in a hyper-volatile 2026 economy driven by autonomous artificial intelligence intentionally reducing your biological output is a sound strategy for a long-term wealth preservation? Number 3. Have you calculated the compounding decadal cost of stepping away from a corporate battlefield for an extra 52 days a year, while Apex operators use that exact same time to engineer your obsolescence? Let me know your answer. If you're new to the channel, here is my intro. I'm Dr. HR. I approach the global labor and capital market not with emotional comforting advice, but as a structural algorithmic system. I hold a PhD in human resources, a master's from prestigious Tata Institute of Social Sciences TISS in Mumbai, and a bachelor's in computer engineering. Operating on the ground here in Dubai since 2010, consulting for Tier 1 corporate entities, sovereign wealth funds, and apex tech founders across the Middle East and Indian subcontinent, I have monitored exactly how global talent acquires maximum leverage and how it systematically destroys its own value. The market does not reward you for finding a more comfortable work-life balance. It rewards you for dominating absolute scarcity. I understand the exhaustion. I understand the deep biological burnout generated by a hyper-strained corporate grid of Dubai, London, and Mumbai. You are tired. You want a structural release valve. But the 4-day work week is the biggest career trap of the decade. And you are walking straight into it. While you're enjoying that extra day of leisure, a global, highly decentralized talent pool is working around the clock to make your exact skill set obsolete. You aren't just gaining free time, you're actively devaluing your professional leverage in a hyper-competitive market. Stop celebrating your 3-day weekend before you see what is fundamentally doing to your bank account and your executive trajectory. In the 2026, slowing down means getting passed by high-growth competitor who never took their foot off the gas. We're exposing the leisure-centric trap that trades your long-term career security for short-term comfort and total stagnation. What if the utopian dream of working less is actually a terrifying nightmare for your future net worth? Reducing your output does not lower your immediate productivity, it exponentially accelerates your professional decay while the rest of the world aggressively scales. Learn exactly why embracing this reduced schedule is one-way ticket to becoming a low-value, expendable commodity in a high-speed digital economy. Before I completely dismantle the illusion of the reduced work week, expose the exact mathematical physics of professional decay, and give you the precise architectural blueprint to exploit this trend and dominate your industry, hit the subscribe button and press the notification bell. I post daily videos showing you exactly how to navigate the global labor and capital market using cold, hard engineering logic. You do not want to miss these execution protocols. Stop optimizing for leisure, start optimizing for leverage. Grab a notebook, it is time to engineer your monopoly. Phase 1, the Contrarian reality check, the leisure-centric trap. We must first diagnose the exact debilitating macroeconomic illusion that human resource departments and progressive corporate media has sold to the modern workforce. Over the past few years, the concept of 4-day workweek has been packaged as the ultimate evolution of corporate wellness. The narrative dictates that by compressing your output into 4 days, you will achieve higher productivity, better mental health, and perfectly balanced lifestyle. The companies adopting this model are celebrated as forward-thinking utopias. This is a leisure-centric trap. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of global economic physics. The 4-day workweek is the biggest career trap of a decade because it operates on false assumption that your career exists in a localized, isolated vacuum. It assumes that if your specific company in Dubai or Toronto decides to pause operations on a Friday, the rest of the world pauses with you. The global market does not pause. The market is a ruthless, continuous compounding algorithm. While you are enjoying the extra day of leisure, sitting in a cafe, watching Netflix or recharging, a global talent pool is working around the clock to make your skill set obsolete. An apex operator in Bangalore does not care about your company's wellness policy. A hyper-aggressive tech founder in Singapore is not taking Friday off. They are utilizing that exact 24-hour window to learn the new Oracle SCM integration, to master a complex AI deployment, or to aggressively network with the clients you're ignoring. When you voluntarily opt out into a 4-day schedule, you aren't just gaining free time, you are actively devaluing your professional leverage in a hyper-competitive market. You are mathematically surrendering 20% of your operational bandwidth to your competitor every single week. Over a standard 5-year corporate cycle, you have voluntarily surrendered an entire year of compound growth, skill acquisition, and relationship building. You cannot maintain a Tier 1 apex level market valuation while operating on a Tier 3 laser optimized schedule. The math simply does not clear. Phase 2. The urgent wake-up call, the velocity of obsolescence. To understand the sheer lethality of this trap, we must examine the specific technological environment of 2026. We must map the velocity of obsolescence. Stop celebrating your 3-day weekend before you see what it's doing to your bank account. In the legacy economy of the 1990s or 2000s, skills degrade slowly. If you were a financial auditor or a supply chain manager, the core principles of your job market remained relatively static for a decade. Taking an extra day off each week might have resulted in a slight dip in output, but it would not destroy your career foundation. In 2026, the half-life of technical and strategic knowledge is approximately 6 months. We are competing in a market dominated by generative AI, autonomous swarm, and decentralized smart contract. In this specific economic architecture, slowing down means getting passed by a high-growth competitor who never took their foot off the gas. But more terrifying, you are no longer just competing against biological humans, you are competing against the machine. If a company adopts a 4-day work week, the executive board immediately realizes they have a 20% gap in their operational output. How do they fill that gap? They do not hire 20% more humans, they destroy the profit margin. They deploy autonomous AI agent. The machine does not take a 3-day weekend. The machine does not require a wellness day. By demanding a 4-day week, the biological workforce has inadvertently given the corporation the exact financial justification it needs to aggressively accelerate its automation protocol. You're exposing the leisure-centric trap that trades your long-term career security for a short-term comfort and total stagnation. When you willingly reduce your presence, you signal to the market that your role is highly compressible. If your job can be done in 4 days without companies collapsing, the C-suite will inevitably realize it can be done by an algorithm in 4 seconds. You do not protect your mental health, you're training your employer to live without you. Phase 3, the economic trade-off Tease, the depreciation of human capital. We must perform a deep structural analysis of how human capital actually appreciates. What makes you valuable to a sovereign wealth fund, a Tier 1 tech incubator, or an elite recruitment agency? What if the dream of working less is actually a nightmare for your future net worth? Human capital does not appreciate passively. It appreciates through constant, high-friction exposure to complex problems. Let us apply Lean Six Sigma to your personal career trajectory. In Lean Six Sigma, value stream mapping is used to identify and eliminate waste to optimize the flow of value. When you remove 20% of your active working hours from your personal value stream, you are removing the exact temporal space where innovation, deep problem solving, and relationship compounding occurs. Reducing your output doesn't just lower your immediate productivity, it exponentially accelerates your professional decay while the rest of the world scales. Consider the mechanics of a high-stake networking in a city like Dubai. The most lucrative deals, the most critical mentorship, and the most asymmetrical piece of insider's information do not happen during scheduled mandatory Tuesdays morning Zoom call. They happen in the peripheral margins of a work week. They happen during the late Thursday afternoon strategy session or the Friday morning coffee meetings when the rest of the office is quiet. When you compress your schedule into 4 frantic, hyper-optimized days, you eliminate the margins. You become a pure executor of tasks, jumping from one meeting to the next with zero time from strategic synthesis. You lose the cognitive breathing room required to analyze the broader macroeconomic grid. Learn why embracing this reduced schedule in one-way ticket to becoming a low-value asset in a high-speed economy. The market pays an absolute premium for sovereign architect, operators who synthesize complex systems and solve unscripted problems. The market pays minimum wage or deploy an AI for task executor. The 4-day workweek structurally forces you to become a frantic task executor, completely stripping you of your architectural leverage. Phase 4, the mathematical reality of compound decay. We must break this down into absolute unshakable mathematics. You must understand the physics of a compound decay. The human brain is notoriously bad at calculating exponential compounding over long-term horizon. Let us take 2 identical operators, operator A and operator B. Both are 28-year-old. Both are mid-level strategists in the UAE and both earn 30,000 a month. Operator A accept the modern corporate narrative. They join a firm that proudly champions the 4-day workweek. They work Monday through Thursday. They spend Friday, Saturday and Sunday resting, traveling and consuming digital entertainment. Operator B is an apex sovereign operator. They reject the narrative. They work a standard 5-day week, but they use the 5th day exclusively for high-leverage skill acquisition and asymmetrical networking. The 5-year telemetry. Over 5 years, operator A approximately 1040 days over 5 years. Operator B works approximately 1300 days. Operator B has accumulated 260 additional days of market exposure. That is an entire standard working year of extra friction, extra learning, extra iterations, and extra failure. But the math does not stop at simple addition, it compounds. The knowledge operator B acquired on day 200 is applied to the problem on day 201, generating a higher yield. But by year 3, operator B is not 20% better than operator A, they are 200% better. When a Tier 1 executive roles open in requiring a mastery of new Oracle OTBI reporting framework, an ability to navigate complex Middle Eastern stakeholder psychology, operator A cannot even comprehend the parameter of the job. They have spent the last 5 years optimizing for leisure. Operator B steps into the boardroom and command a 50% salary premium because they possess the compounded, unautomatable architectural knowledge that can only come from sustained, decadal time in the market. You cannot cheat the math. When you optimize for less work, you're optimizing for less competence. When you optimize for less competence, you guarantee a future of financial anxiety and corporate subjugation. Phase 5, the asymmetrical vacuum, exploiting the trap. If the masses are actively walking into this trap, how does an apex operator respond? You do not complain about the 4-day workweek, you exploit it. You must recognize the macroeconomic environment for what it is. The asymmetrical vacuum. When 80% of your industry voluntarily decides to shut down their cognitive output for an extra day every week, they are creating a massive gaping void in the market. They are leaving territory completely undefended. As a sovereign operator, this is your ultimate leverage point. When the rest of the market is sedated, you initiate your offensive protocol. 1. The Friday monopoly. If your company or your industry mandates a 4-day week, do not spend the 5th day acting like an employee on vacation. You treat that day as your personal sovereign venture capital firm. You step into your acoustic-treated digital studio, you fire up your elite Cineline gear, your Sony FX2 camera, and you import your raw strategic data into DaVinci Resolve 20. You spend the 5th day building a high-fidelity digital broadcast that proves your exact structural value to the global capital market. You build your personal monopoly while your competitors are asleep. 2. Asymmetrical upskilling. You use the vacuum to master the complex high-friction system that the leisure class refuses to touch. You deep dive into advanced Oracle SCM configurations, you master the deployment of localized AI agent, you map the reverse logistics of career, global Circular economy, you acquire the exact painful knowledge that makes you mathematically impossible to fire. 3. Dominating the silence. When the corporate grid powers down on Thursday evening, the C-suite and the sovereign wealth fund managers are often still working. They do not take 3-day weekend. When you reach out, when you solve a critical problem, when you deliver a flawless execution during the leisure window, you instantly bypass the middle management layer and interface directly with the apex decision makers. You prove that you are one of them. Phase 6. Redefining the burnout, the architecture of autonomy. We must conclude by addressing the root cause of the entire movement. Why did the 4-day work week become so popular? Because the modern workforce is genuinely biologically burnt out. We must redefine burnout now. Burnout is not caused by working too many hours. Burnout is caused by working on low-leverage, meaningless tasks in a state of absolute powerlessness. When an employee is trapped in a toxic corporate matrix, micromanaged by an incompetent boss, and forced to execute a mind-numbing data entry, 40 hours feels like a biological torture. Their natural, desperate response is to demand fewer hours. They want a 4-day week because they want to escape the pain of their own irrelevance. So an operator does not seek to escape work, they seek to escape the powerlessness. If you are burnt out, the solution is not to work 4 days instead of 5. The solution is to completely restructure the architecture of your career. You must transition from being a biological compiler, a generic employee executing orders, into an architect when you build structural leverage. When you master high-stakes negotiation, when you possess a skill set that is mathematically scarce, you command absolute autonomy. You dictate the terms of your engagement. When you are operating in a state of high agency flow, solving complex problems, building scalable systems, and directly capturing the financial yield of your intellect, working 60 hours a week does not cause burnout, it generates energy. It generates absolute unshakable sovereignty. Look closely at the corporate policies being celebrated on your LinkedIn feed today. Look at the companies bragging about how little their employees work. They're celebrating their own decline. They are sedating their workforce while global algorithms prepare to automate them into oblivion. Do not accept the sedative. Reject the complacency trap. Understand the brutal physics of compound decay. Step into an asymmetrical vacuum. Dominate the hours your competitor abandons and build an empire of absolute leverage while the rest of the world rests. Process the data, execute the strategy, and I will see you at the top.